Good afternoon, race fans, and welcome to Podium Esports Live, flag-to-flag coverage of the 4th Annual Podium 500 live from iRacing's virtual Daytona International Speedway in Daytona Beach, Florida. James Pike, the voice of Podium Esports, alongside Kenneth Bueno, here for the 4th edition of the Great Virtual Race. And Kenneth, the premise is simple. 200 laps, 500 miles, one driver that will be $1,000 richer at the end of the day.
It's an exciting culmination of everything that's happened so far, James. Yesterday, we had 12 hours of qualifying day where we saw heat races, LCQs, and the duels to set this grid here for the Podium 500. Now, the task is at hand. All you got to do, survive to the end, and you can give yourself a shot at being a Podium 500 champion. We've got a new car, same track, same style of racing. It means it's going to be exciting, and anticipation is very high. I think everybody's going to be ready for this today.
Over the course of the weekend, we started with over 360 drivers, the largest field in the history of the Podium 500. We spent Thursday whittling out the drivers of the preliminary race, Friday taking times for everyone in time trials, and yesterday during qualifying day, whittling down the 344 that made it to the 44 that you will see on track this afternoon. With over 12 hours and 200 plus laps of racing from the virtual Daytona International Speedway, what we're left with are 43 of the best restrictor plate racers in all of the Civ, ready to put on a show matched by few year in, year out across the iRacing calendar. And yes, Kenneth Bueno, big storyline for this year in particular, the arrival of the next-gen car. First time that we've used the next-gen in the Podium 500 ahead of its debut in real life next week at the Daytona 500. We noticed a few things that were a little bit different about this car compared to the Gen 6s we ran last year, and nobody really knows what to expect, so could make for a lot of interesting racing over the course of the afternoon.
It'll bring a lot of interesting racing. This next-gen car, you cannot treat it like any other stock car in previous history. You have to treat it like a brand new race car altogether. It's a very different body. There's no side force. It's a symmetrical body. There's a lower greenhouse to make it more similar to the street cars you see out on the road. You've got 18-inch aluminum wheels. You've got shorter sidewall tires, a lot wider tires as well. And the drafting, when you've got the full underbody, the full diffuser on the rear end, it means that the air really takes a different step in comparison to the Gen 6 car that we saw last year and in previous years of the Podium 500. So with a brand new car, these drivers have taken notes, but the unknown is still greater than ever. And it means that today, over 200 laps, 500 miles, we get to see which drivers can test the endurance of these next-gen Cup cars and how good they can treat them all the way to the finish.
This is an endurance race. It is 500 miles. It is 200 laps. It is longer than most of what these drivers anticipate and most of what these drivers race on a regular basis here. So, bit out of the ordinary for a lot of these folks, especially if you don't have a lot of experience with the NASCAR iRacing series. One of the few races that gets the full 100% treatment throughout the year is the Daytona 500 that you will see in official sessions over the course of this upcoming week. But it's the first crack that a lot of these drivers have had with the new car combo and even the updated track, and a little bit of a visual update over the course of the last few weeks. So Daytona now up to 2021 spec and still just as racy as ever. But this is the first big test, and not only for anybody who's going to enter an official 500 later on this week, but for the drivers of the eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing series that have made the field, who will be competing in their season opener on Tuesday night as well.
Yeah, these drivers are going to have a lot to test, a lot to know, a lot to take notes on. Coke Series drivers going to have their tests at it in just a couple of days. And then you look at NIS 500. Some leagues are opening their 500 throughout the week as well. So ultimately, just a culmination of the speed weeks. But I think this one has the most prestigious feel. $1,000 to win and all the glory that goes with it.
And speaking of drivers of the eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing series, how about one of them that now joins us now that also happens to be the defending champion of the Podium 500. We're now joined by XSET's Casey Kerwin. And Casey, new car, new manufacturer, new number, but the goal is the same. How excited are you to get back after it for another crack at the Podium 500?
Yeah, I'm really excited. It's a fun event to be a part of for sure, and it's nice to have that provisional. It was fun in the duels, and yeah, these things race different, so that was kind of part of the reason why I just wanted to take the provisional and start at the back last night, because not even just for today, but like for our Coke race Tuesday, we hadn't plate raced this thing yet, so I felt like it was a great time to learn and see what you could do to go forward and what didn't work. And I went backwards a lot last night trying to go forward and figured out what I think is good for making moves late in the race. So yeah, hopefully I learned enough and can try and repeat what we did last year.
Now, you did have a provisional coming in yesterday as a former champion of this event, but you ended up not really needing it in the end because you managed to work your way to the front and win the duel. Second time you won the duel in as many years, but did the fact that you knew you were going to be in the 500 no matter what change the way you approached the duel last night?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I was, it didn't really matter if I wrecked, but I also didn't want to be like that guy that, like caused a wreck with a provisional when I had, nothing to worry about. But, starting position does matter. Like starting as far forward as you can is going to be good. So I still had something to race for. And like I said, I needed to, make moves. I didn't think I did anything too crazily aggressive besides, just going 3 wide sometimes. But, yeah, I was just trying to see what runs you could take and how you could side draft and see, if you could clear in certain situations and stuff like that. So, yeah, hopefully I learned enough for today and we'll see how it plays out.
You mentioned that this next-gen car is different compared to the Gen 6. We mentioned it at the top of the broadcast. What did you notice off of what you saw last night that differs between the car that we're running today and the car that we ran with last year?
Yeah, so the runs are, like, massive in this thing right now. And there's also not really a bubble anymore. The way the plate package kind of ended in the Gen 6, there was, like, a bubble. So you kind of wanted to be, like, the leader because you could kind of control lanes with the bubble a little bit. And they'd have to really work together well behind you to kind of break the bubble and get a run on you. But now I don't know if you really want to be the leader off of 4 anymore. I think last year you kind of wanted to. I think you still have a chance if because there's no bubble, so they can just pull out, side draft you. But then obviously being the leader, you could, if someone can come with you, you still have a little bit ahead and you get a push. You can still beat them to the line. But I don't know if you really want to be the leader off of 4. If it's a single file line like that, at least, I feel like you're just kind of a sit and duck to second place, just pulling out. And again, there's no bubble, so you can't really block it. I think someone's probably going to try, and they'll probably be in the infield or in the outside wall, but I don't think you could really block it if someone pulls out because they're just tandemed onto you the moment they pull out there at your quarter panel. So with that bubble being gone, I think that's part of the reason why it kind of causes huge stack ups because the bubble kind of naturally spaced you out a little bit. Where now it's like you all just run right up on top of each other so quick and it just causes big stack ups. So, but that's also when last night when I was trying to come through the field, I would try and time when I would see, when there's a huge stack up, that'd be the time to send it up the middle and try and get some spots. So, yeah, I think the finish would be crazy because I think I wouldn't be surprised if for a while or at least at some point, especially probably on that last run, if there's friends together, they're all going to get single file up on the wall and kind of do that big train just like real life. And then come 10 to go, someone's going to start making it work and it's going to get hectic and everyone's going to be flying everywhere, going all over the place, trying to side draft 3 different lanes. So it'll be crazy for sure.
Is it your intention to do today what you did last night and do a full-on Lightning McQueen impression through the dirt there? Because that was pretty impressive down over in 3 and 4. And in fairness, you've had a few interactions with Lightning over the course of the past 2 weeks, no?
Yeah. So, yeah, it worked out. It was funny whenever I went through the grass. I think whenever we got that yellow, I looked at Twitter and I saw someone put a GIF of whenever Lightning went through the grass. And I was like, I have to win the race now just to top it all off. And we did, thankfully. So, yeah, I mean, it's hopefully if I go through the grass and win again, then perfect. If not, I'd like for it to be clean. But, it's hopefully we can win again. We kind of started off. I think I started at the tail of a duel last year and won. So, everything's kind of working like last year, so hopefully today does.
Should be fun to watch regardless, but let's say you get it done again, you bring up the checkered flag again to become the first 2-time champion of the Podium 500. What would that mean to you?
Yeah, I mean, it means a lot. The Podium 500 honestly was kind of besides the Coke races I've won, was kind of the first big event that I've won. And I've never really seen myself as a great plate racer. I feel like ever since they introduced the side draft and stuff, I've always wanted to side draft people. So that kind of made it more fun for me. And I feel I get more enjoyment of trying to make big moves, I think, with this package because it feels a little bit more... I don't know what it is about side draft. I just like side drafting people. So, yeah, it's... I don't know. It'd be really cool to be the first person to win it twice, for sure. And yeah, like I said, the Podium 500 was really the first like big event that's not a Coke race that I've won, so it'd be cool to get another one and yeah, hopefully keep the provisional for a couple more years.
And get another one with your favorite number 2. You'll see Casey Kerwin in the number 95 in homage to a certain Pixar character that he may or may not have an affinity for that we may or may not know very well. Casey, thanks for the time as always. Best of luck to you in this race, and we look forward to seeing you out on track in just a few moments.
Thanks, guys. Enjoy the show.
It's Casey Kerwin, driver of the number 95 Chevrolet Camaro for XSET Gaming, that will be starting 4th as the winner of Duel 2 in this Podium 500. We now turn our attention to another champion of this race. How about the man who won it in 2020? It's Daniel Eberhardt, who is now joined by R. Kenneth Bueno.
Here indeed with the 2020 Podium 500 champion, Daniel Eberhardt. Daniel, duels were a little hectic. Qualifying day was pretty hectic as well. Give us your expectations about what today is going to be like, especially given the fact that you ran the gauntlet yesterday for many hours on end.
Yeah, that's why I ran it, to learn everything I knew going in today was going to be tough. I'm starting at the back. It's going to be long. It's going to be hectic. I think you're going to see a lot of riding around early. I'm hoping that. Last year we had that one big wreck about, like 50 laps in. I hope everybody keeps it, minds their P's and Q's today, but I learned a lot. The side drafting in this thing, the middle line, you can get it to work, but you cannot work the bottom and go up and kind of side draft that guy back unless you got a line below you onto your right. So side drafting off the left is what you got to do with your car to a guy lower than you. If you're on the outside, the side draft really works really good. If you're on the bottom, it really doesn't. But the middle line it's kind of dead if you can't get it going, and there's a lot of good guys in here, so we could probably get it going really well today.
And learning, I think, seems to be the biggest word that's been tossed around with this entire Podium 500 stretch, because it's a brand new car. It's an NASCAR next-gen machine. We've spent a couple of years from 2019 to 2021 utilizing the Gen 6, and obviously with the way you have held super speedway racing here in the Podium 500, it's definitely easy to say that you're one of the best when it comes down to this style of racing. But you did it with the Gen 6. What seems to be the dynamic here with the Gen 7 car from behind the wheel on your end?
The Gen 6 had a little wall of air. They changed it, about a week ago, where they let you tandem now. So if you're sitting second, you're probably in the catbird seat to win this thing, I mean, unless we're side by side, leading the way is not the way to go at the end of this thing. You saw Kerwin do it last night and pull down and pass for the lead right there at the end of that Duel 2. You want to be second. Not leading is not the thing to do unless they're side by side, so just always keep that in mind during this race.
And Daniel, you will start 44th out of the 44 cars that starts this Podium 500. You've done it before. You've been able to walk through the field. How is the approach going to be over 500 miles with this car? Are you going to be aggressive early on, or are you going to be a little more conservative? How will Daniel Eberhardt, previous Podium 500, get to the front in order to win your second in a handful of years?
I think you're going to have to be patient. I think you're going to have to fill it out. I think you're going to have to watch what guys do, because you got some guys in here that are going to be really aggressive, and you got some guys who are going to try to pace themselves. It's a mixture of both bags, so we're going to see what happens, and I think you'll see me go around to the front about 50 to go.
Definitely going to be exciting to see you work your way through the front, and of course, wishing you the best of luck here in this 2022 Podium 500. Thank you, Daniel.
Thank you.
That is Daniel Eberhardt, previous Podium 500 champion. James, you mentioned Casey Kerwin going for number 2. Eberhardt is trying to do the same.
Eberhardt trying to get a second 500 under his belt. There's one more driver that's going to be going for another 500 under his belt. We somehow managed to have grabbed all 3 of our previous Podium 500 champions, and we are now joined by the inaugural champion of this race back in 2019, Seth the Merchant. Seth, you've seen this evolve over the course of 4 iterations of this now, at least through qualifying day. How has the Podium 500 changed as time has gone on, and how has the value of being the inaugural champion changed to you as this has progressed?
Well, everything this year especially, everything has changed. Just the way you race, like the way the draft works, the way the cars drive. Like if you get loose now, you can't really save it anymore with the way the steering angle is. So you have to really approach the race differently, and I'm really excited to see what we can do.
how wild is it that we stand here and this is the first time in the history of this race that two prior champions have locked out the duels? You get the victory in duel number 1 last night, so you'll start third right behind Logan Hilton. But what does it say about the value of experience to you and the know-how of getting it done before that you see so many drivers with previous Podium 500 starts up in the top 10 on the grid?
Yeah, it's cool. The guys who are good at play racing in the past have seem to have an advantage with the new draft and figuring stuff out. Casey and I know Daniel have been really fast this week, and I would expect that we're all going to be up front challenging, trying to go for our second Podium 500 win, and yeah.
Your first thoughts on the new car? Everybody's been running it pretty well over the weekend, and certainly a lot of laps now logged by this field, especially if you made it to the big show. So what have you noticed about the next-gen car, and what are things that you're sort of keeping in your mental notebook as we get set for 200 laps in just a few moments?
Well, first off, 3 wide is a no-no. If you go 3, you instantly stall out to running like almost no draft speed, like single car speed. So probably going to be 2x2 with everybody blocking the wall so they can't get trapped middle. But both lanes, we've found a lot of dominance from the top lane, but I think both lines can work depending on who you have as a pusher. But if you don't have a good pusher on the bottom especially, you're not going to go anywhere. So I would expect for the majority of the race, the leaders are all going to be up against the wall. But if you get the right people helping you, you can roll bottom, and I think you could make it work to where you could clear like the whole top lane.
Coming into this race, drivers I know have a general strategy on how they want to attack it, but how specific do you try and plan for a Podium 500 or a full 100% race here at Daytona, no matter what happens? And how much do you end up throwing that notebook out the window and that plan out the window at the end, or do you get the chance to stick to it?
Yeah, I don't know. It'll all depend, especially with this new package. I think if I can stay up front today, I'm going to try to stay up front. But if that doesn't happen, I'll probably go back to my strategy I did in 2019, just ride in the back and try to, wait for those last 20 laps and go. But if there's still like a big field of cars at the end and you're in the back like that, you get trapped and there's not really anything you can do. So it's kind of constantly evolving as you go out through the race. So we might try to play some pit strategy or something to try to get you in a spot where you can be safe but be there at the end.
Because safety is paramount and key. You've run a lot of races here in the sim. You've been in a lot of different places. You've done a lot of really crazy things. What would becoming the first 2-time Podium 500 champion mean to the Mainers at the Merchant?
Dude, it would be really cool. This is one of my favorite events to run every year. I love running, trying to race my way in. I know I was locked in going in, but I really wanted to race my win so I could say that I didn't have to go off that provisional. But it would mean a lot, to go back to back, be the first one to do that, and we're going to go and see if we can do that today.
And what would it mean for Logitech G Altus Esports? Plenty of firepower amongst your organization, but would this be right up there with the biggest events that your team has claimed in iRacing?
Yeah, I would say that it would be right up there with Cozy's Firecracker win if we can get it done. This will be unfortunately, Cozy wasn't able to make it, but this will be our first oval event of 2022. So I'm the only one in here to try to go and win the race. Cozy unfortunately wasn't able to make it through the duels last night, but we're going to see if we can win for Logitech G Altus.
There is the power of being a former champion of this event. Only 3 drivers can say that. I have a feeling that'll carry some weight in the field. Seth the Merchant, inaugural Podium 500 champion, trying to go after his second this afternoon. Thanks for the time, Seth. We'll see you on track in just a few.
Thanks, James.
One more driver to talk to in our pre-race show. How about the man starting up front? We held time trials on Friday night, and out of 300 plus qualifiers, it was a 50.410 that Milton, Florida's Logan Hilton put down. So we'll let the Floridians hold court here. And from one Floridian to another, here's Logan Hilton with Kenneth Bueno.
Well, we've got the Florida duo here with Logan Hilton, and we talked to 3 previous Podium 500 champions. This is you, Logan, looking for your very first. Logan, you've got the best view, I think, out of anybody in the field going to the start. You're going to be the first one to see the green flag along with Nathan Rabideau. So, Logan, give us your expectations. Do you got anxiety, anticipation? What are your feelings before this Podium 500 today?
It's mainly nervousness. I've never been in this position before to be in the pole in a Podium 500, and because my dog won't stop making noises. Please stop that, please. Thank you. Sorry. But yeah, I'm mostly nervous. I'm excited as well. So excited to get this event going underway. It went so well for us last year. We made it to the main event, started sixth, and we ended up coming home third. So I was very happy with that, and I can't wait to see what happens in this event.
Of course, you finished within the podium in last year's Podium 500. Momentum gonna look to swing this time around. And Logan, you had the privilege, of course, you ended up with the fastest time in the time trials on Friday. So you were, of course, gonna be sitting around the rest of the weekend until today. What have you learned over the course of watching qualifying day, watching the heats, watching the LCQs, and of course, watching the duels at the end of the night? What have you learned from all those races and everything that's gone on since you took the pole that potentially could help you on your way to a Podium 500 win?
Since I haven't been on track a whole lot, I haven't learned as much as I'd like to, but what I have gathered is the high side is a safe place to be if you're in the front. But I've seen a lot of guys in the back try to change lanes a lot, so it gets a little bit difficult back there. But I just hope we can stay up front all race. But if we end up getting to the back, we'll just have to figure it out as we go.
And this race, of course, 200 laps, 500 miles, a very long endurance event. Logan, since you start from the front, of course, you have sort of the vantage point over everybody else when we start. But over the course of the race, what are you looking to do here? Maybe an approach, be a little more conservative? Are you looking to work with certain people? What is your overall agenda to make sure you can obviously go for the win at the end, but obviously give yourself a shot before you try to get to the checker?
Oh, well, I'm obviously looking to work with the Next Esports boys. They've been awesome all week long with me, and especially last year's Podium 500 was my first official race with Next Esports, and it's kind of cool to be back here. I'll be looking to work with Nathan, who also got the front row as well, starting second. That's awesome. And then a Cosman. Cosman will be in the race with us. He's starting a little bit further back, but he's in a really good starting position. And yeah, I'm just excited to work. I think I'm going to try to be aggressive but not dangerous to try and just stay up front. I don't want to fall back, but if we end up falling back, we'll just have to play it by ear, I guess.
And of course, you had previous success here at Daytona. You did really well in the MSRA race when they kicked off their season. It was a full 100% race, so no doubt that this car and you as a driver have had a lot of prominent success here at the World Center of Racing. Going to the end, if you're the first to see the checkered flag, though, what would it mean to you to be in your second attempt at the Podium 500 and to get a win if you could do it?
It would be a big deal. I haven't won a whole lot of like very big deal races. The most recent I can think of, I won a championship in MSRA, their Xfinity Series League in 2020. So that was a big deal for me back then. It would just mean a whole lot to win this race, and especially it's my dad's birthday today, so happy birthday to him. And I wanted to say thank you to him for supporting me in all my races. It means a lot. So winning this race on his birthday would be super cool way for him to celebrate as well.
Well, of course, I think on behalf of Podium Esports, want to give a happy birthday to Mr. Hilton, but of course, wishing you the best of luck, Logan, on this journey through 500 miles here in this 2022 Podium 500. You're starting first. Let's see what we can do. Good luck out there.
Thank you very much.
James Pike, that is Logan Hilton. He will have the first sight of the green flag when we start here in this Podium 500. That 53 starting up front.
We are within 5 minutes of setting the grid for the 4th annual Podium 500, and that means it's now time to introduce our full broadcast team that will be joining us this afternoon. I will be atop the tower in the booth above the start-finish line at Daytona International Speedway. We'll have a brilliant view of the cars coming out of turn 4, through the tri-oval, down to pit road, and all the way over into turn number 1. So much can happen in that stretch. And of course, the big piece of it all, we're going to find out who wins the 4th annual Podium 500 right below our eyes. But for most of the day, they'll be rolling off into turn 1 and into the 31 degrees of banking over by turns 1 and 2. And when they do that, they will leave my purview and head into the purview of Glendale, Arizona's Devin Henry. Devin, welcome to the Podium 500.
Oh boy, James, a pleasure to be here when you have some of the best racers in the entire service taking on Daytona for the first time in a giant public session with the next-gen cars. We saw all day yesterday when you hit that first 31 degrees of banking, the pushing was actually fine. We saw a lot of guys really aggressive on the bumpers, but once you get around turn 2, that's kind of where the issues started on exit pushing. So you can be aggressive if you want to, but also the high line. What is with that? All the momentum has been on the high side so far. Drivers popping up from the inside lane to the outside lane. Will that change, though, in the daytime temperatures? As you go down the back straightaway, hit turns 3 and 4. We all know this will be important on the last lap, but you got to make sure that you survive through the first 200, and that's where you're going to find Shippenberg's Pennsylvania's Jacob Hitz.
Thank you, Devin Henry, and good afternoon, everybody. For my purview, just in the infield of turn number 3, looking back toward the super stretch on my right and then to my left, well, turn 3 and 4, and we saw a lot of chaos in this area of the racetrack, particularly in that second duel, which was the wild one of the two. A lot of contact. These guys are going to fan out when they get off turn number 2. They might try and go 3 wide. If they go 4 wide, they probably won't last very long. We saw a lot of side-by-side yesterday, and I think that'll continue this afternoon, but bump drafting is going to be the key. The bumpers do not line up. The rear bumpers are almost U-shaped. If you hit at just the wrong spot on the back bumper, it could be enough to turn cars around. We saw Casey Kerwin, it happened to him, and a lot of others yesterday as well. Of course, they'll get back into the 31-degree banking corner of turn number 3, right around through 3 and 4, and make their last dash to the checkered flag coming off the final corner. But before they get to that, they're going to have to make some green flag pit stops, potentially, and that's where we find Edgewater, Florida's Taylor Burris.
Good afternoon, everyone. Of course, welcome to Daytona, my home track here in beautiful Sunshine State, Florida. This track has provided so much history here, and a track that offers a lot of great strategy calls that we've seen throughout the history of either the Podium 500 or also the Great American Race, the Daytona 500. Strategy is going to be so critical to see here tonight, as drivers will be working at speeds of 200 miles an hour and then trying to find a way to make their way down pit road at 55 miles an hour before having to hit their box. And of course, the big rule here today is making sure that they are 2 in, 2 out as they work their way on pit road, and be careful with speeding. And also the thing is, a new form of strategy with the pit stops, 1 single lug nut on all 4 tires, which will change the game of pit stop cycles here today. But it's going to be exciting to watch all the action down here on pit road. But we're going to zip on over to Hialeah, Florida's very own Kenneth Bueno.
Thank you, Taylor. And when you come off of turn 4, the sight is imminent. You see the checkered flag. You see the 18 degrees into the tri-oval. And that's when you know this is the final stretch of asphalt before you get to the end of a race here at Daytona. Jacob mentions how crazy it gets out of turn 4. It gets even crazier on that last stretch before the tri-oval. Draft moves are made. Drivers switch to the inside, switch to the outside, bump each other all the way to the finish, and it is just an absolute melee to the start-finish line and to that checkered flag at the end. So watch for that. If you see drivers very close out of turn 4 in the final laps, you better know there's going to be a pass going to be made somewhere. There's going to be an attempt somewhere. There's going to be drivers helping each other all over the place. It's a full-on scatter. Everybody wants to nose ahead to the checkered flag here in this 2022 Podium 500. We'll send it back to the fellow man in the booth right next to me from Winston-Salem, North Carolina, James Pike.
Yeah, it will be crazy, KB. I think you're dead on with that, because we saw people sideways and across the yellow line coming to the start-finish line to finish this race last year. Daniel Eberhardt almost was in the grass to try and pass Casey Kerwin. But again, no yellow line rule, because iRacing does not have an automatic yellow line rule tracker. And things that are not enforceable by iRacing, they are not really enforced by the Podium 500, part of the ethos of the event, to let iRacing handle as much as it can automatically and leave as little into the hands of human error. So lots of action to take track of this afternoon, lots of things to worry about, as we are now within 1 minute of setting the grid for this Podium 500. KB, generally, how hyped are you for this?
I'm super hyped. I mean, we should have done the what time is the game time before this, because that could have gotten me hyped for this. But I mean, this event, I mean, the first time I think our entire group is calling this, for the most part, it is going to be so much fun. These are new cars, new grounds for many of the drivers, new grounds for us calling the action. And that means that with the best sim racing drivers in the world, especially on the super speedway package, it is going to be an outstanding event. These drivers are going to put it all on the line, and we love seeing drivers put everything that they have, because you can see the raw emotion, you can see the raw talent that they have, everything that they can put together. And it's just going to be great to tell that story when it culminates after 500 miles and that checkered flag is waved. We know the dust will settle, a celebration will happen, the driver will be the winner. I can't wait to find out who's he going to be.
44 drivers, 44 stories at minimum, and then there are probably more beyond that as we really look at it. So many different things that we're going to try and hit over the course of the broadcast, whether or not you're one of the 3 former champions at this event or you're making your first start in the big show. And for all the years that you've tried to race your way through qualifying day and you haven't made it, here's your shot now. We've got a few of those in the field. We've got plenty of talent, top to bottom. And guess what? Time to stop talking about it all and start running you through the starting grid proper for the 4th annual Podium 500. The grid is live now, and it is time to introduce drivers number 1 through 44, which starts this afternoon with our pole sitter and the other man on the front row, both of whom set 50.410 times in qualifying. But because Logan Hilton has the higher I rating, he is the pole sitter for the 4th annual Podium 500 alongside Nathan Rabideau. Those two got to sit out qualifying day by virtue of their fast times on Friday, so they could be a little bit green. We'll see how that pans out. In the second row, Seth the Merchant and Casey Kerwin, your inaugural and defending Podium 500 champions respectively for Accent and Logitech G Altus Esports. Garrett Maines and Craig Janczak rolling in row number 3, starting in 5th and 6th. Row 4, it's Kenny Brady from Drillspill and Robbie Lyons, Season 3 champion of Monday Night Racing. The top 10 is completed by 2019 NASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series champion out of Clinton, Connecticut, Zach Novak, and Kazman Önesiu out of Austria and Romania.
Donovan Strauss in the number 20 for Williams Esports will roll off P11 with Austin Johnson to his outside in P12. We saw Michael Finlayson do great in one of the dual races last night. He'll roll off 13th with Sean Boundy in the 34, fellow Toyota Camry to his outside in that 14th spot. Brandon Houff will out of the inside of the top 15 in row 8. Garrett Brown out of the MPI Cup Series. He'll be in P16 in today's action. Justin Knobloch will be 17th. 18th will go to Jordan Kuntz on his outside in row number 9. Before you find the final drivers in this top 10, Alec Karen in the 81 and Chandler Parsons, Chandler out of Twitch in the 72 and P20.
It's the Bob Pockers of eNASCAR. Justin Melillo for Tracks GG starting off in E21 alongside Liam Brotherton. Ryan White and Jesse Atchison make up that 12th row. Jacob Bell and Josh Ball in 25th and the 26th positions. Connor Horn lines up with Max Segalt and Rev Racing's Rajak Baruth. Jeremy Miller, Eric Papineau round out your first 30 spots.
Chris Akers in that Reese's machine will line up in P31. Josh Kosick to his outside. Hayes Booth and Jason Maines, the father of Garrett Maines, lines up in the 34th position. Justin Levine and Nick Olson make up 35th and 36th. Then it's Jared Darling, Josh Robin, Lake Peterson, and Dylan Jones. Your final 4 drivers, final 2 rows, Matthew Dula, Ricky Harden, Daniel Falkingham, Daniel Eberhardt. Your field of 44 for the Podium 500.
Most people know what this track is like, but Kenneth Bueno, take us through Daytona International Speedway.
Well, this is a large track, James Pike, and this was built on one of the home grounds of NASCAR. NASCAR headquarters not too far across the street on Speedway Boulevard. This track is 2.5 miles, 4.02 kilometers, opened all the way back in 1950.